The starship Resolute moved through the darkness of space like a small silver fish swimming into the mouth of a whale. Captain Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge and watched the massive alien station grow larger on the view screen. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The station was a ring of metal and light that could hold 1,000 Earth cities inside it. Daniel was a tall man with gray hair at his temples and tired eyes that had seen too many things. He had been a soldier before he became a captain. He had fought in the resource wars on Earth and helped build the first colonies on Mars, but nothing in his life had prepared him for this moment. Humanity was about to meet the rulers of the galaxy. Ambassador Claire Morrison stood beside him. She was younger than Daniel, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun and a face that showed no fear even when she felt it. She had spent 20 years as a diplomat, solving problems between nations that wanted to kill each other. She believed that words could solve anything if you found the right ones. "They're hailing us," said the communications officer. The view screen changed to show a face that was not human. The Volari were tall and covered in scales that shimmered between green and gold. Their eyes were yellow with black slits down the middle, like the eyes of a snake. The one on the screen wore a crown of metal spikes and robes that seemed to be made of liquid silver. "I am High Arbiter Zolmak," the alien said. His voice was cold and sharp. "You are the humans. You will follow our ships to the docking port. You will bring no weapons. You will show proper respect to your betters." The screen went dark before anyone could respond. Daniel looked at Claire. "That's not a good start." Claire kept her face calm. "We expected some arrogance. They've ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. We're the new species. We have to prove ourselves." The Resolute followed the alien escort ships into the station. The docking process took 2 hours. When the airlock finally opened, Daniel and Claire walked out with a team of 12 diplomats and security officers. They left their weapons behind as ordered. The inside of the station was beautiful and terrifying. The walls were made of something that looked like glass but felt alive. Strange plants grew in patterns along the ceiling. Aliens of a dozen different species walked past them without looking. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all. Some floated instead of walking. They were led to a massive chamber at the heart of the station. The Galactic Council sat in a circle of floating chairs high above the floor. 12 species, 12 chairs, 12 sets of alien eyes looking down at the humans like they were insects. High Arbiter Zolnak sat in the tallest chair. He did not smile. Claire was not sure if his species could smile. "You have traveled far to reach us," Zolnak said. "We have watched your species for some time. You are young. You are violent. You spread across your solar system like a disease spreads through a body. Now you reach out to the stars. This concerns us." Claire stepped forward. "High Arbiter, we come in peace. Humanity wants to join the galactic community. We want to trade, to learn, to share what we know. We have much to offer." A sound came from the council. It took Claire a moment to realize it was laughter. "You have nothing to offer," said another council member, a creature made of living crystal. "You are children playing with fire. You do not understand the forces you are dealing with." Zolnak raised a scaled hand and the laughter stopped. "We've decided what will happen to your species. You will abandon all colonies outside your home system. You will limit your population to 5 billion. You will accept the Volari observers on your homeworld to ensure you follow these rules. You will not develop new weapons. You will not build new warships. You will remain in your system until we decide you are ready to join civilization." Claire felt the blood drain from her face. "High Arbiter, these terms are unacceptable. We have millions of people living on our colony worlds. We can't just abandon them." "You misunderstand," Zolnak said. "These are not terms. This is not a negotiation. This is what will happen. If you refuse, we will remove your species from the galaxy. We have done this before. We will do it again." Daniel stepped forward. His hand moved toward his hip where his weapon would have been. "You can't threaten us like this. We came here in good faith." Zolmak's yellow eyes fixed on Daniel like a predator watching prey. "Good faith? You are an aggressive species that has been killing each other since you first stood upright. You developed nuclear weapons and almost destroyed yourselves. You are dangerous. We are protecting the galaxy from you." "We've changed," Claire said. "We've learned from our mistakes. Give us a chance." "We gave the Thraxians a chance," said another council member. "They are gone now." "We gave the Merdani a chance. They are gone. We do not make the same mistake 3 times. Zolnak leaned forward in his chair. "You have 1 solar cycle to accept our terms. Return to your ship. Deliver our message to your leaders. If they are wise, they will submit." Daniel and Claire were escorted back to the Resolute. The airlock closed behind them, and Daniel immediately ran to the bridge. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones. "Captain," the sensor officer shouted. Multiple ships just dropped out of hyperspace near the Kepler system. They're Valari warships. Hundreds of them. Daniel's hands gripped the armrest of his chair. "Kepler 442b. There are 200,000 colonists there." The communications officer's face went pale. "Sir, I'm picking up distress signals from the colony. They're under attack." Claire grabbed Daniel's arm. "We have to help them. With 1 ship against a fleet?" Daniel's voice cracked. "We can't." They watched the sensor data in horror. The Valari fleet surrounded the colony world. Missiles fell from orbit like rain. The cities burned. The distress signals stopped one by one until there was only silence. 243,000 men, women, and children died in less than an hour. The main view screen flickered. High Arbiter Zolnak appeared again. Behind him, the council watched with cold satisfaction. "This is what happens to species that do not know their place," Zolnak said. "Go home, humans. Tell your leaders what you saw today. Submit, or your homeworld will burn next." The Resolute jumped to hyperspace with damage from the station's warning shots. As the stars stretched into lines around them, Daniel Hayes looked at Claire Morrison. The diplomat who believed in words had tears streaming down her face. "They never meant to negotiate," she whispered. "They wanted to break us." Daniel's hands were shaking, but not from fear. Something else was building inside him. Something that had been sleeping in humanity since the first cave dweller picked up a rock to defend his family. "They made a mistake," he said quietly. "They should have killed us all when they had the chance." The news of the Kepler massacre reached Earth 3 days later. It spread through every city, every town, every village on the planet within hours. People gathered in the streets, staring at screens showing the burning colony. Families who had relatives on Kepler 442b collapsed in grief. The world watched, and the world remembered. Secretary General Marcus Webb stood before the United Earth Assembly. He was an old man with a face like carved stone and a voice that could fill a stadium without a microphone. He had led humanity through 2 global crises. Now he faced something worse than any of them. "They killed our children," Webb said, and his voice did not shake. "They burned our homes. They did this not because we attacked them. They did this because we existed. They did this because they were afraid of what we might become." He paused and looked at the representatives from every nation on Earth. Some were crying. Some were furious. All of them were listening. "The Galactic Council has given us a choice. We can submit and live as slaves, or we can fight and die as free people. I say there is a third choice. We fight, and we win. The chamber erupted in applause that shook the walls. Within a week, Earth began to change. Factories that made cars started making weapons. Scientists who studied medicine started studying alien technology. Farmers joined the military. Teachers became soldiers. The entire planet turned itself into a weapon aimed at the stars. Lieutenant Commander Samantha Cole was given command of the Outer Defense Fleet. She was 35 years old with short red hair and freckles across her nose that made her look younger than she was. She had graduated top of her class in fleet tactics and spent 10 years fighting pirates in the asteroid belt. Now she had 50 ships and orders to stop an invasion. The Council fleet arrived 6 weeks after the massacre. 3,000 warships dropped out of hyperspace near Neptune and began their slow march toward Earth. Their commander, Fleet Admiral Vorth, broadcast a message to the human defenders. "You have one chance to surrender," Vorth said. His scales were darker than Zolnak's, almost black, and his eyes burned with contempt. "Lower your weapons and accept your fate. Resist, and you will share the destiny of your colony." Samantha responded with a single word: no. The first battle happened near Neptune's largest moon. Samantha knew she could not win a straight fight. The alien ships were bigger, stronger, and carried weapons that could crack a planet in half. So she did not fight a straight fight. She hid her ships among the moons and asteroids. She planted nuclear mines in the approach lanes. She loaded her smallest fighters with explosives and sent them on one-way missions into the enemy's largest ships. Her pilots knew they would die. They flew anyway. The aliens expected the humans to fight like every other species they had conquered. They expected defensive lines and organized retreats. Instead, they got chaos. Human ships attacked from every direction, hit hard, and vanished into the darkness before the aliens could respond. Vorth lost 50 ships in the first hour. It was nothing compared to his total force, but it was 50 more than he had expected to lose in the entire invasion. "These creatures are insane," his tactical officer reported. "They are ramming our vessels. They are detonating nuclear weapons at close range, destroying themselves along with our ships. They show no regard for their own survival." Vorth watched a human fighter fly directly into the bridge of one of his cruisers. The explosion killed the pilot and 300 Volari crew members. "They are animals," Vorth said with disgust. "Increase speed. Crush them with numbers." The fleet pushed forward, and Samantha's defense force was slowly destroyed. For every alien ship the humans killed, they lost 10 of their own. After 3 days of fighting, Samantha had only 12 ships left. She pulled them back to Mars for a final stand. But something strange happened during the retreat. The alien weapons started malfunctioning. Their shields flickered at random moments. Their engines lost power for seconds at a time. Small problems, but problems that had never happened before. On Earth, in a secret bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, a young technician named Amy Chun smiled at her computer screen. She had spent the entire battle sending coded signals to the alien ships, signals designed to interfere with their systems. It wasn't enough to stop them, but it was enough to slow them down. "It's working," she told her supervisor. "Their systems are based on quantum entanglement. If we can figure out the frequency, we can shut them down completely." Her supervisor, a tired old professor named George Miller, nodded. "Then figure it out, fast." The alien fleet reached Mars orbit and found another human defense force waiting for them. This one was led by Captain Daniel Hayes, who had finally returned from his failed diplomatic mission. He had been given command of the Resolute and 20 other ships that were barely held together with tape and hope. "Today we show them what humans are made of," Daniel told his crew. "Today we fight for everyone who died on Kepler. Today we fight for Earth." The battle for Mars lasted 2 days. The humans fought with everything they had. They turned civilian cargo ships into weapons. They used satellites as shields. They fired missiles that they had built in basement factories. Just weeks before, Vorath watched from his flagship as his fleet slowly pushed through the human defenses. He had lost 200 ships, an unthinkable number, but he was winning. The humans could not stop him. They could only delay, but his tactical officer noticed something troubling in the battle data. The humans were not just fighting. They were learning. Every time the aliens used a new weapon, the humans adapted within hours. Every time the aliens changed their tactics, the humans changed faster. "They are studying us," the officer said quietly. "They are using this battle as a training exercise." Vorath dismissed the concern. "It doesn't matter what they learn. They will all be dead soon." On Earth, Secretary General Webb received reports from the front lines. The news was bad, but not as bad as it could have been. The fleet had bought them time. 3 months of time. 3 months for the factories to build more ships. 3 months for the scientists to crack alien technology. 3 months for every man, woman, and child on Earth to prepare for the fight of their lives. Webb looked out his window at the night sky. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was coming to destroy everything humanity had ever built. But somewhere out there, in those same stars, humanity was being born again. Not as victims. Not as slaves. As warriors. "They think they know us," Webb said to himself. "They only know the humans who came to them in peace. They haven't met the humans who come in war." Far above Earth, the orbital shipyards worked day and night. New ships took shape in the darkness, bigger and stronger than anything humanity had built before. And deep in the weapons labs, scientists made breakthroughs that would change the course of history. The aliens had awakened something in humanity, something old and terrible and unstoppable. Now they would see what that something could do. 6 months had passed since the invasion began, and the Galactic Council was growing worried. Earth had not fallen. The humans had not surrendered. Every week, the reports from Fleet Admiral Vorath became more confused and more desperate. High Arbiter Zolmak read the latest report with growing anger. The humans had destroyed another supply convoy. They had ambushed a patrol fleet near Jupiter. They had somehow infected the navigation systems of 3 cruisers, causing them to crash into each other. "This is impossible," Zolmak said to his advisors. "No primitive species has ever resisted us for this long. The Mordani fell in 6 days. The Thraxians lasted 2 weeks. These humans have been fighting for 6 months, and they are getting stronger." His chief scientist, a thin Valari with pale scales, cleared his throat nervously. "High Arbiter, I have studied the battle data. The humans are adapting. They are learning our technology faster than any species in recorded history. Weapons that took us centuries to develop, they are copying in weeks. And they are not just copying. They are improving." Zolmak slammed his fist on the table. "Then send more ships. Send the entire fleet if necessary. I want that planet burned to ash." But sending more ships was not as easy as it sounded. The Council ruled 1,000 worlds, and those worlds needed protection. Other species were watching the war with great interest. Some of them had old grudges against the Valari. If the Council sent too many ships to Earth, those species might see an opportunity. On Earth, humanity was transforming itself into something new. The underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains had become the most important place on the planet. Dr. Nathan Price led a team of 300 scientists working around the device clock to unlock the secrets of alien technology. Nathan was a small man with messy brown hair and glasses that were always crooked. He had won 3 Nobel Prizes before the age of 40. He had also failed his physical education class in high school and could barely run a mile without collapsing. But his brain was the most powerful weapon humanity had. "Look at this," he said to his team, pointing at a piece of captured Valari equipment. Their power systems use quantum tunneling to transfer energy. It's beautiful work, but it's also inefficient. They haven't improved this design in 10,000 years. They got comfortable. His assistant, a young woman named Rachel Park, studied the device with wide eyes. How long would it take us to build something better? Nathan smiled. We already did. Last Tuesday. The new human weapons were tested in secret bases on the moon and in the asteroid belt. Plasma cannons that could punch through Valari shields. Missiles that could track a ship through hyperspace. Fighters equipped with artificial intelligence that could outthink any organic pilot. But the most important breakthrough was the neural implants. They were small devices, no bigger than a grain of rice, that were inserted into the brainstem. They connected the human mind directly to computer systems. A pilot with a neural implant could control a ship with their thoughts. A soldier could aim and fire before their conscious mind even recognized the target. Captain Lisa Grant was one of the first volunteers for the implant program. She was a tall woman with scars on her face and hands that told the story of 100 battles. She had been fighting the alien invasion since the first day, leading a guerrilla fleet from a hidden base in the asteroid belt. Does it hurt? Rachel asked as she prepared the surgical tools. Lisa laughed. Everything hurts these days. Just get it done. The surgery took 3 hours. When Lisa woke up, the world had changed. She could feel her ship like it was an extension of her own body. She could see through its sensors. She could fire its weapons with a thought. She was no longer just a pilot. She was something more. Her first mission with the implant was an ambush on a Valari supply convoy near Saturn. The enemy ships never saw her coming. By the time their sensors detected her fleet, half of them were already dead. The battle lasted 4 minutes. How is this possible? The Valari commander screamed into his communication device as his ship exploded around him. Lisa's voice came through the static, calm and cold. You should have killed us when you had the chance. News of the victory spread through the solar system. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had hope. The aliens were not invincible. They could bleed. They could die. And humans were getting very good at making them do both. Fleet Admiral Varth was recalled to the council for an emergency meeting. He stood before the 12 species and tried to explain what was happening. The humans are unlike any enemy we have faced, he said. They do not fight for territory or resources. They fight for revenge. Every soldier we kill creates 10 more who are willing to die. Every ship we destroy teaches them something new about our weapons. They are using this war to evolve. High Arbiter Zolnak listened with growing fury. Then destroy their shipyards. Destroy their factories. Starve them into submission. We have tried, Vora said quietly. They move their production facilities constantly. They hide them underground, in asteroids, in places we cannot find. And there is something else. The humans on the occupied colony worlds are fighting back. We cannot control them. They set fires. They sabotage equipment. They attack our soldiers with primitive weapons and their bare hands. For every rebel we kill, 2 more take their place. A member of the council, a being made of living water, spoke in a gurgling voice. Perhaps we should negotiate. Offer them peace in exchange for surrender. Zolnak's eyes flashed with anger. We do not negotiate with inferior species. We command. We conquer. We rule. That is the way of the council. That is the way it has always been. The way it has always been may need to change, the water being replied. These humans are not like the others. They are not afraid of us. They are not even afraid of death. How do you defeat an enemy who does not fear death? Zolnak had no answer. On Earth, Secretary General Webb received a secret message from an unexpected source. The Dasari, An aquatic species that had always voted against the invasion wanted to talk. Their representative, a being that looked like a cross between a dolphin and a squid, appeared on his screen. "We do not agree with what the Council is doing," the Visari said. "We have watched your species. You are not the monster Zolnak claims. You are simply young and full of fire." Webb leaned forward. "What are you offering?" "Information, technology, an alliance if you can win this war. The Council is not as united as it appears. Many species are tired of Valari rule. If you can break their fleet, others will rise. The galaxy is ready for change. You might be the ones to bring it." Webb smiled for the first time in months. The Council had thought they were crushing a single species. They were actually starting a revolution. "Tell me everything," he said. "And then we'll show the Valari what happens when you try to burn humanity." In the shipyards orbiting Earth, new warships were taking shape. They were massive things, bristling with weapons that combined human creativity and alien technology. Their hulls were painted black, and their names were written in letters of fire. Vengeance, retribution, fury, justice. The fleet that would change. The galaxy was almost ready. And when it launched, the Council would learn that some fires cannot be extinguished. They can only be fed. 1 year had passed since the massacre at Kepler 442b. On Earth, the day was marked with silence. Every factory stopped working for 1 minute. Every ship in the fleet went dark. Every human being, no matter where they were, paused to remember the dead. And then the silence ended, and the war began again. Admiral Kevin Ross stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Vengeance, the largest warship humanity had ever built. He was a big man with a shaved head and hands like sledgehammers. He had started the war as a simple captain with 3 ships under his command. Now he led a fleet of 500. "All ships report ready," his first officer announced. Kevin looked at the tactical display. 500 human warships, each one carrying weapons that would have seemed like magic a year ago. Each one crewed by men and women who had lost friends and family to the alien invasion. Each one hungry for revenge. "Set course for Proxima Centauri," Kevin ordered. "It's time to take the war to them." The fleet jumped to hyperspace in perfect formation. The stars blurred around them, and for a brief moment, they traveled faster than light itself. When they emerged, they were in the Proxima system, where the Council had built their forward operating base. The Valari commander at Proxima was named Korath. He was Vorath's younger brother, and had been given this post as a reward for his family's loyalty. He was not a particularly good commander. He had never faced real combat. He had spent most of his career at parties and ceremonies. When his sensors detected 500 human warships entering the system, he laughed. His base had over 1,000 ships. The humans were outnumbered 2 to 1. This would be easy. He was wrong. Kevin's fleet split into 3 groups. The first group attacked the orbital stations, targeting their communication arrays. Within minutes, Korath could not call for reinforcements. The second group engaged the main Valari fleet, drawing them away from the planet. The third group, led by Kevin himself, headed straight for the supply depots. "They're running at our supplies," Korath realized too late. "All ships, defend the depots." But his orders caused chaos. Ships that were fighting the second human group tried to turn back. They crashed into each other. They got in each other's way. The neat formations that the Valari had practiced for centuries fell apart in minutes. Kevin watched the enemy fleet tear itself apart and felt a grim satisfaction. The aliens were excellent soldiers when everything went according to plan. But war never went according to plan. And humans had spent their entire history learning to survive chaos. "All batteries, fire at will," he commanded. The human ships unleashed their new weapons. Plasma bolts tore through Valari shields like paper. Missiles tracked enemy ships through evasive maneuvers that should have been impossible to follow. Fighters with neural link pilots danced between explosions, firing with impossible accuracy. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Valari had lost over 1,000 ships. Korath was captured alive, dragged from his escape pod by human marines who handled him without gentleness. "This is impossible," Korath whispered as he was led through the corridors of the Vengeance. "You are primitives. You cannot defeat us." Kevin met him at the brig. He looked at the alien who had helped burn Kepler, and his face showed no emotion. "We couldn't defeat you a year ago," Kevin said. "But you gave us a year to learn. That was your mistake." News of the victory at Proxima spread across the galaxy. For the first time in 50,000 years, a Council invasion fleet had retreated. Species that had lived under Valari rule for centuries began to whisper. If the humans could do it, maybe they could too. On the occupied colony worlds, the resistance fighters heard the news and fought harder. General Patricia Kim led the liberation of New Eden, the largest human colony still under alien control. She was a small woman with gray in her hair and steel in her eyes. She had lost her husband and 2 sons at Kepler. Now she was taking her revenge one planet at a time. "The civilians need to evacuate," her second-in-command told her. "The Valari are burning everything as they retreat." Patricia shook her head. "No, ask them what they want to do." They asked. The civilians, 200,000 people who had lived under alien occupation for a year, gave their answer. They wanted to fight. Grandmothers who had never held a weapon asked for guns. Teenagers who should have been in school asked for explosives. Factory workers who had been forced to build alien equipment asked to destroy it instead. "Give them what they want," Patricia ordered, "and point them at the enemy." The Battle of New Eden lasted 3 weeks. The Valari had 10,000 soldiers on the planet. By the end, they had none. The civilians of New Eden fought with a fury that the aliens could not understand. They fought in the streets. They fought in the sewers. They fought with guns and knives and rocks and their bare hands. One Valari officer, captured after the battle, was asked why his troops had failed. He sat in silence for a long time before answering. "We thought they would surrender once they saw they could not win," he said quietly. "We did not understand. They never planned to win. They only planned to make us pay for every inch of ground in blood. Our blood." Back on Earth, Secretary General Webb prepared for the next phase of the war. The Thesari had given him everything they promised. Maps of Valari space, weaknesses in their defenses, lists of council species that might be willing to change sides. It was time to stop defending. It was time to attack. Ambassador Claire Morrison stood beside him as he addressed the United Earth Assembly. She had changed in the past year. The woman who had believed in peaceful diplomacy was gone. In her place was someone harder, someone who had watched her dreams burn and built new ones from the ashes. "We have survived," Webb told the Assembly. "We have fought and bled and sacrificed more than any generation before us. And now we stand at a turning point. We can dig in and defend what we have. We can wait for the Council to rebuild and attack again. Or we can do what humanity has always done. We can take the fight to them. We can show them that the stars belong to everyone, not just to those who claimed them first." The Assembly voted. The result was unanimous. In the shipyards, the new fleet was ready. 3,000 warships, the largest force humanity had ever assembled. At their heart was the dreadnought Unconquered, commanded by Captain Daniel Hayes, who had been promoted again and again as the war went on. Daniel looked at the fleet through his command screen and remembered the day he had watched Kepler burn. He remembered feeling helpless. He remembered the rage that had built inside him like a fire that would never go out. Now that fire would burn across the stars. All ships, he said. His voice carried to 3,000 bridges. Prepare for jump. Destination: Velar Prime. The Council had brought war to humanity. Now humanity was bringing war to the Council. And the Velari, safe in their homeworld, had no idea what was coming for them. The fleet jumped. The stars blurred. And when they emerged, they would emerge in the heart of an empire that had ruled for 50,000 years. That empire had exactly 3 days left. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of angry stars. 3,000 warships, their hulls black as the void between galaxies, their weapons already charging. At their head was the Dreadnought Unconquered, the largest and most powerful vessel humanity had ever created. Admiral Daniel Hayes stood on its bridge and looked at Velar Prime for the first time. It was a beautiful world, green and blue like Earth, with rings of orbital stations circling it like jewels. This was the heart of the Galactic Council. This was where the order to burn Kepler had been given. All ships, report status, Daniel commanded. 3,000 voices responded. Every ship was ready. Every weapon was armed. Every crew member knew what they were fighting for. High Arbiter Zolmak received the news of the human fleet's arrival with disbelief that quickly turned to terror. His homeworld's defense fleet was only 2,000 ships. The rest were scattered across the galaxy, still trying to contain the rebellions that had erupted everywhere since Proxima fell. How did they get here? He demanded. How did they cross half the galaxy without detection? No one had an answer. The truth was simple. The Thesari had given humanity the secret hyperspace routes that only the Council knew. They had guided the human fleet through paths that bypassed every sensor network. And now 3,000 warships sat in Velari space, and there was nothing Zolnak could do to stop them. Scramble every ship, he ordered. Activate every defense platform. Call for reinforcements from every corner of the galaxy. His officers rushed to obey, but they all knew the truth. Reinforcements would take days to arrive. The battle would be over in hours. Daniel watched the Velari fleet form up between his ships and the planet. They were outnumbered, but they were fighting for their homeworld. They would not run. Open a channel, he said. All frequencies. The communication officer nodded. Daniel's face appeared on every screen in the Velar system, on warships and stations and cities and homes. In the council chamber, where Zolnak sat frozen with fear. This is Admiral Daniel Hayes of the United Earth Fleet. 2 years ago, you came to us with demands. You told us to submit or die. When we refused, you murdered 243,000 innocent people. Men, women, and children who had done nothing to you. You burned their homes. You laughed as they screamed. Daniel's voice was calm, but his eyes burned with cold fire. Today, we come to you. Not with demands. Not with threats. Just with a simple truth. You started this war. We are going to finish it. The screen went dark. Zolnak stood in the council chamber and watched the human fleet begin its attack. The Velari ships fought bravely, but they were facing weapons they had never seen before. Human plasma cannons that adapted to shield frequencies in real time. Missiles that split into 100 smaller missiles, each one seeking a different target. Fighters that moved with a speed and precision that seemed almost supernatural. They have learned too much, Zolnak whispered to himself. We gave them time to learn, and now they are using our own knowledge against us. One by one, the council members rose from their chairs and left the chamber. The Thesari, the crystal beings, the creatures of living water. They walked out without a word, leaving Zolnak alone with the few species still loyal to him. You would abandon me? He called after them. After 50,000 years? The Thesari ambassador paused at the door. You abandoned wisdom when you attacked the humans. We will not share in your fate. The battle for Velar Prime lasted 3 days, exactly as Daniel had predicted. The Valari fought with everything they had. They used their orbital stations as weapons, crashing them into human ships. They launched civilian vessels filled with explosives. They even tried to ram the Unconquered with their own flagship. Nothing worked. On the third day, Daniel led a boarding party onto the Valari command station. Ambassador Claire Morrison walked beside him, wearing light armor and carrying a weapon she had learned to use in the last 2 years. Behind them came 100 Marines. Their faces grim and determined. They found High Arbiter Zolnak in the council chamber, alone on his floating throne. The other chairs were empty. The walls, which had once displayed the glories of council rule, showed only static. "You have won," Zolnak said. His voice was tired, defeated, empty. "Kill me and be done with it." Daniel stopped in front of the throne and looked up at the alien who had ordered the death of his people. "No," he said simply. Zolnak blinked his yellow eyes in confusion. "No? After what I did? After Kepler?" Claire stepped forward. "We considered it. Believe me, we considered it. Every human who survived the massacre wanted to watch your world burn the way Kepler burned. We had the weapons. We had the numbers. We could have made Vela Prime a dead rock circling a forgotten star. Then why didn't you?" Daniel answered, "Because that's what you would have done. And we are not you." He turned to face the recording devices that were broadcasting to the entire galaxy. Billions of beings on thousands of worlds were watching, waiting to see what humanity would do with its victory. "The Galactic Council is dissolved," Daniel announced. "The age of Valari rule is over. But humanity did not come here to become the new masters of the galaxy. We came here to free it." Claire took over, her diplomat's training returning as she spoke to the watching species. "Every world that was ruled by the Council is now free. Every species that was conquered is now independent. If you want to form a new government, we will help you. If you want to join together in a federation of equals, we will be part of it. But there will be no more rulers, no more masters, no more species that tell others to submit or die." Zolnak listened in disbelief. "You cannot simply give away an empire. You won. The galaxy is yours." Daniel shook his head. "We don't want an empire. We just wanted to be left alone. You wouldn't let us. So we did what we had to do. Now it's over." He looked at Zolnak one last time. "You'll stand trial for what you did. Every species you conquered will have a voice. Every crime will be remembered. But you won't die. You'll live long enough to see everything you built torn down and rebuilt as something better. That's your punishment." Guards led Zolnak away. Daniel and Claire stood alone in the empty council chamber, surrounded by the ghosts of 50,000 years of tyranny. "Do you think it will work?" Claire asked. "A galaxy of free species working together?" Daniel thought about the humans he had seen in the last 2 years. The scientists who had cracked alien technology in weeks. The soldiers who had fought against impossible odds. The civilians who had picked up weapons rather than submit to slavery. The entire species that had transformed itself from peaceful explorers to unstoppable warriors. "I think humans have a talent for making impossible things work," he said. "And now we have friends. Lots of friends." The view screen flickered to life, showing messages flooding in from across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered by the Council for centuries were declaring their freedom. Worlds that had never dared resist were rising up. And everywhere, beings were asking the same question. Could they join the humans in building something new? Claire smiled for the first time in 2 years. "We came here to end a war. I think we might have started something bigger." Daniel walked to the window and looked out at Vela Prime. The planet was damaged but not destroyed. The cities were dark but not burning. Life would go on. And somewhere, on a distant world where humans had built their first colony beyond Earth, New children would grow up in a galaxy where no one would ever threaten to destroy them again. They wanted to see what humanity was made of, he said quietly. They called us primitive. They called us dangerous. They said we would destroy the galaxy if we weren't stopped. He turned back to Claire, and there was something in his eyes that had not been there before the war. Pride, perhaps. Or maybe just peace. They were right to be afraid. They were just wrong about what we would do with our power. We don't want to rule. We never did. We just wanted to be free. And now everyone is. The unconquered hung in orbit above the world it had conquered, but would not keep. Around it, 3,000 human warships waited for orders that would send them home. The war was over. The galaxy was changed forever, and somewhere in the void between stars, the spirits of 243,000 dead from Kepler could finally rest. Their deaths had been avenged. Their sacrifice had been honored. And the species that had killed them would never hurt anyone again. Humanity had shown the galaxy what it was made of. Now it was time to show them something else, what it could build.